Hey you guys, so today's video will be all about snowdrops and how I grow them and propagate them. So when we moved into this house, I was fortunate enough to have a small clump of snowdrops that I have been moving around the garden and especially concentrating in this area under our Japanese maple. Now, the interesting thing about this spot is that in the summer, the shade is so dense that nothing will grow under here. But around this time of year, there are no leaves on this tree, so there's plenty of light, and the earliest of the bulbs, which one of them is snowdrops, are just loving it here. And what happens is that this tree is not going to leaf out for another month or so, so it's plenty of time for these snowdrops to soak up the sun and recharge for the next year's growth. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a close-up just to show you how pretty it is. And the snowdrops are the earliest flower to bloom in my garden. Also, look at the bees. There's so many bees here today. They are enjoying the snowdrops as well. As for the growing conditions, they're not that fussy to grow. They do prefer well-drained soil like a lot of other bulbs, otherwise they may rot. Now, the one problem with these bulbs is that sometimes they are difficult to start. So when you get your bulbs normally in the fall, you will plant them out, but unfortunately with snowdrops, by that time a lot of the bulbs dry out too much, and they are best propagated and planted when they are quote-unquote in the green. So the stage they are in now, or a little bit before or a little bit after, but when they still have leaves, that is the best time to plant them and propagate them. If you decide to get snowdrops as bulbs, make sure you buy them as fresh as possible and as early in the season as possible. Better yet, if you have a family member or friend who have them like this in the green, this is the best stage to have divisions from them. Another place you can check is Facebook Marketplace. Sometimes they have them there too. So this is my original patch of snowdrops that I have been dividing for the last 10 years. It still looks pretty good, but I'm actually going to take a couple of more snowdrops from here today. All right, I'm going to get that bigger clump right there. I'm going to dig out the whole thing. Now you have to be careful because they do run deep, deeper than you think. Look at the bees. There's a bee on here. All right, so here's what you can do next, and it's totally up to you. You can break this clump up in small pieces like this, individual bulbs. There's like a family of bulbs here. And you can plant this little clump here. Or you can divide it maybe in 3 clumps, so it has a bigger effect next year. So you see that little clump right there? That I divided last year. So I'm actually going to do both. I'm going to do some that are bigger like this, and some that are smaller, maybe just a few bulbs. A lot of people are nervous about dividing plants while they're in bloom. I would not worry about it with snowdrops. These plants are way more resilient than we think. Another thing that I wanted to point out, so you see how this clump has very few blooms, and this is what happens when clumps become overcrowded. So you actually have to divide them, I would say, every 4 to 5 years, so they are nice and healthy and produce a lot of blooms. And the next step is to plant them up. And I dig a hole a good size for the size of the clump. But here's the important part. You wanted to plant it as deep as it was in the previous spot. So you see how this white part is underground and anything green is above ground. This is exactly what I'm going to do when I'm planting it now. If the snowdrops are happy in your garden, they actually will start to reseed. So I planted a clump of snowdrops in this part of the garden. I don't remember which clump, but they reseeded. I could see maybe this was the original and these reseeded here, and I see that one right there, the little one, probably reseeded last year. Now, they are not aggressive, at least not in my garden, but definitely check in your area if this species is invasive to you. But what I'm going to do today is, because they are so pretty, I'm actually going to pot up one of them in one of my favorite Berg's pot. I think I'll put this clump right here, right after the bee is done. Isn't this so precious? So the reason why I like to pot up some snowdrops is because I like to enjoy them inside the house this time of year. I like to look at them at the eye level, and also they have a beautiful, very subtle but beautiful fragrance to them. Once they're done blooming, which probably will be in a couple of weeks, I will just plant them out in the garden again, and they will be just fine. Another thing I wanted to do here, possibly this fall, is add another layer of spring blooming bulbs of different color, maybe eranthus or early blooming crocuses. Now the trick here is to add really early spring blooming bulbs, because if I add tulips or daffodils, by that time this tree is actually going to be leafed out. So those plants will not have the opportunity to recharge for next year's bloom. Now these little guys have plenty of time to recharge, and I think it will be so beautiful to have all these different colors. So if you want to add another layer to your garden, a really early blooming layer, and I think this is very important because this is the time when we are starving for color and some action in the garden the most, definitely try very early spring blooming bulbs. And you can tuck them anywhere. You can tuck them in your beds, you can tuck them under the trees, and somewhere where you would not normally plant plants. And another thing I wanted to mention is that I wrote a book. So I was very busy this winter gathering your guys' questions, because I get questions all the time on Instagram and here on YouTube about how to design your own gardens. And I wrote this comprehensive step-by-step guide on how to design your dream garden as a homeowner. Now, it is exactly the same process that I use as a professional landscape designer, but it is written in plain language, it is easy to understand, it is actionable. There's actually homework after every chapter, because I want you to keep moving toward your dream garden. So I will post a link in the description down below. I hope you guys check it out. Let me know how you like it. And I hope you give these beautiful jewels and harbingers of spring a try. They are just so precious. They bring me so much joy around this time of year. And I hope you like this video. Thank you so much again for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.